Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Friendly Friday, a weekly series where we take a look at budget, standard or modern decks, and this week we're taking a look at red-black pirates in standard, an aggressive tribal strategy. So let's dive right into it here, starting out with our 1-drops, where we have 3 copies of a Grasping Scoundrel, a 1-mana 1/1 that gets +1/+0 as long as it's attacking, so essentially a 2/1 when it's attacking. Next up we also have 4 copies of a Daring Buccaneer, which is a 1-mana 2/2, and as an additional cost we have to reveal a pirate from our hand when we cast the Buccaneer, otherwise the Buccaneer will cost us 3 mana, but in this deck it's not an issue to reveal an additional pirate, so it's going to be a 1-mana 2/2, which is very powerful when you can play it on turn 1. And then we also have 4 copies of a Rigging Runner to round out the 1-drops, which is a 1-mana 1/1 with first strike, but if we attacked with another creature this turn, the Rigging Runner will enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, making it into a 1-mana 2/2 with first strike, which is very powerful and combines very nicely with our next pirate, which is Direfleet Poisoner, a 2-mana 2/2 with Flash and Death Touch, so we can play it at instant speed, and when the Poisoner enters the battlefield we can give target attacking pirate we control +1/+1 and Death Touch until end of turn, and Death Touch combines very nicely with first strike or double strike, since then you will guaranteed kill the opponent's creature without losing your own. Then we also have 4 copies of Fathom Fleet Captain, which is a 2-mana 2/1 with Menace, so has to be blocked by at least 2 creatures, and when the captain attacks, if we control another pirate, we can pay 2 generic mana to make a 2/2 pirate token with Menace, and of course the Menace ability on the captain makes him very difficult to block, so you will be able to keep making those 2/2 pirate tokens which also have Menace. Then we also have 4 copies of Kitesail Freebooter, which is a 2-mana 1/2 with flying. When it enters the battlefield you get to take a look at the opponent's hand and then select a non-creature non-land card and exile it with a freebooter, and then if the opponent happens to get rid of the freebooter they do get their card back, but of course the idea is that you kill your opponent before they ever get to get rid of the freebooter and get their card back. So this gives us a little bit of disruption against sweeper effects and other removal spells. Then we also have a spicy 1-off copy of Buccaneer's Bravado, which is a 2-mana instant that can give one of our pirates +1/+1 and double strike until end of turn, which can add up to a lot of damage out of nowhere, especially combined with Direfleet Neckbreaker, which we will get to in just a second. Then we also have 2 copies of Kari's Skyship Raider, which has already proven herself to be a very powerful 2-drop in standard, a 2-mana 1/3 with first strike and Menace, and when Kari's attacks we get to make a 2/1 monkey token that's also tapped and attacking, so adds up to 3 damage for just 2 mana, and Kari's works exceptionally well with Direfleet Poisoner, since if the opponent has to block Kari's with at least 2 creatures, and then giving the Kari's Death Touch in combination with first strike means the opponent's gonna be very sad. Then we also have 4 copies of Lightning Strike as a removal spell of choice, because it can also go upstairs to deal 3 damage to the opponent. Then a very important card in the deck is 4 copies of a Ruin Raider, which is a 3-mana 3/2 that if we attacked with one of our creatures at the end of turn, we get to reveal the top card of our library and put it into our hand, and we lose life equal to the card's converted mana cost. But in a low curve deck like this one, we're not gonna take a whole lot of damage, and the Ruin Raider will help us refuel our hand and keep drawing more pirates to apply pressure with. And then last but not least we have 3 copies of Direfleet Neckbreaker, which is kind of our lord in the deck, as a 4-mana 3/2 that gives attacking pirates we control +2/+0, which includes the Neckbreaker himself, so that means that the Neckbreaker attacks as a 5/2 and gives all our other attacking pirates +2/+0, which combines very nicely with all our menacing and flying pirates that are hard to block, and with the Buccaneer's Bravado you can kill an opponent out of nowhere. Then the mana base is pretty straightforward. We have 4 copies of Unclaimed Territory, naming pirate, to help us cast our creatures, as we only have 5 non-creature spells in the main deck. Then we have some basic lands, 6 swamps and 7 mountains to go along with our 4 copies of Dragonskull Summit, which will come into play untapped if we control a mountain or a swamp, and conveniently Canyon Slough is both a swamp and a mountain, comes into play tapped, but we can cycle it later in the game for 2 mana if we're flooding out a bit. Then taking a quick look at the sideboard, we have 2 copies of Deadeye Tracker, which is also a pirate and can help us fight graveyard decks like Godfarrow's Gift. We have 2 copies of Duress against control decks and combo decks. We also have 2 copies of March of the Drowned, which is also great against control decks, being able to return 2 pirates from our graveyard back to our hand. Then we have 2 copies of Direfleet Daredevil, which is great against decks running cheap removal spells, since we get to cast them from their graveyard with the Daredevil and hopefully kill one of the opponent's creatures with it. We have 2 copies of Fiery Cannonade, dealing 2 damage to each non-pirate creature, which of course doesn't affect our pirates, and that's great against all sorts of token decks that are trying to go wide and swarm the board. Then we have 2 copies of Lightning Rig Crew, which can help us against opposing aggro decks, where the 0/5 body can block a lot of the opponent's ground forces, and then can ping away at their life total as we keep playing more pirates. And then we have the anti-control artifacts. We have 2 copies of Fell Flagship, which gives our pirates +1/+0, so a nice little anthem effect, and then when the opportunity presents itself, we can crew the Fell Flagship to attack our opponent and make them discard a card when we connect. And then we also have 1 copy of Pirate's Cutlass to turn all our small pirates into actual threats by giving them +2/+1, so that's also a nice way to fight opposing removal spells. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw with a pretty good hand here. We have 2 Daring Buccaneers we can play early, Poisoner to get them through, and then eventually a Neckbreaker to hopefully close out the game with. So let's play out the territory, name pirates, and then play the Buccaneer. And I guess we'll reveal another Buccaneer here and say go. And next turn we can actually play out the Captain if we want to. Opponent with 2 mana up here, they could have something like an Essence Scatter or a Censor, but now that we picked up the Scoundrel, we can actually play out 2 1-drops, which seems better here, so let's start by attacking for 2. I guess we should have played our land in case we need to flash in the Poisoner for some reason, although I don't imagine we will. So let's get in for 2. And then we will play out the Scoundrel first. I guess we should have done it in the reverse order, since now we have to show a pirate from our hand that our opponent doesn't know about yet. But I guess we can show the Captain here. So yeah, we should have played the Buccaneer first, revealing the Scoundrel, and then played the Scoundrel. Opponent cycles a cast out, so let's see what the opponent is working with here. 3 mana, they say go. And Ruin Raider is a pretty good draw here, since that lets us refuel. So let's attack with everyone. Opponent takes 6, down to 12. And we'll play Ruin Raider, see if our opponent has a counterspell for it or not. They have a Censor, alright. We'll say go. Next turn we need to worry about a potential Settler Wreckage. And another Ruin Raider is actually perfect here, so I think we just attack with 2 pirates here and then play the Ruin Raider, so we don't go all in against the Settler Wreckage. Alright, this is fine. So we get a Swamp and a Mountain. And then we still get to play Ruin Raider, which will draw us a card, since we did indeed attack with a creature this turn. And Canyon Slough the pickup. Maybe we should have considered not playing the Ruin Raider last turn, since this is kind of the ideal play, playing Ruin Raider after our opponent casts a Settler Wreckage, but now they also have a Fumigate, so that's gonna make things a little trickier. Alright, so I think we just try to vomit as many pirates in play as possible here, and I guess we just play with a Captain and Kari. And then I think we hold our Canyon Slough in hand for now, even though we could potentially play both next turn, but we just don't need this many lands in play otherwise. Although I guess we could have used the 2 mana to pay for a pirate for the Captain and still played the Neckbreaker as well. So I think I'm fine attacking with both creatures here, and then paying for the Captain to make a pirate. So let's pay. Let's see if they have another saddle. They don't. They could have another Fumigate though, so I don't think we want to play out any more pirates here. So I think we just say go. Opponent with a Glimmer of Genius end of turn, and cycles a Censor. And there's another Fumigate, that works. Could also decide to flash in a Poisoner end of turn, which is also reasonable. I think I like that more here, just to keep up the pressure. Another Poisoner. So now we can jam the Neckbreaker, get in for 4. That seems fine, and then play a Rigging Runner afterwards as well. Opponent falls to 8. And we'll play a 2/2 Rigging Runner and hope our opponent is out of sweeper effects. So our opponent clearly on some sort of approach of the second sun deck, so they could be tapping out for approach here, but then they're gonna take a whole bunch of damage. And from the looks of it, I don't think they have a Fumigate or Settle. So yeah, they're just gonna tap out for an approach here, I think. There we go, opponent back up to 15. And our best draw here would be another Neckbreaker. So let's see, we're attacking for 4, 9, 13, so the Poisoner makes that 14, so 1 short. So let's start by cycling the Slough here. And Freebooter is excellent, so that can kind of check to see what our opponent's working with. And they have a Supreme Will and a Glimmer of Genius. So let's think about this. Our opponent can Supreme Will. They still have 5 mana, so that's enough for Settle the Wreckage and Fumigate, while Glimmer of Genius costs him 4 mana, gives him actual card advantage, but then makes him unable to cast a Fumigate at the very least. So I think we take the Supreme Will just because it's cheaper. I think we just get in with what we have. And I hope our opponent doesn't draw into a Settle the Wreckage here with the Glimmer. Right, they hit a land, so they're main phasing the Glimmer, hoping to draw into a Fumigate or Settle. And looks like they hit, so that's unfortunate. End of turn we can flash in the Poisoner. Captain. But our opponent's close now to casting their second copy of Approach. Let's play out the Captain. Say go. So we know our opponent still has that Supreme Will in hand, which they could cast, but then they don't have enough mana to also cast the Approach. Looks like they have another Glimmer of Genius instead. Yep. So they just need to find any spot removal spell or sweeper effect to lock up the game. Or they could decide not to take the Approach if they're really desperate for answers, in which case the game could go on for a while. Our opponent left both cards on top. And the Ruin Raider to draw. I mean, we're just jamming here, don't really have a choice. And we might as well pay 2. Opponent with just a cast out, so had we drawn a Neckbreaker here, we could have actually won the game. So we'll pay 2. Put our opponent to 2. And we'll see if our opponent still has the Approach in hand. Drawn to a Karizev. I guess actually we made a mistake here. We should have not made the Pirates, since the Ruin Raider could have drawn us into a Lightning Strike to finish off our opponent. Our opponent should have actually waited with the cast out until after we made the Pirate token, I think. And then after our opponent cast the cast out, we should have seen that we weren't going to be able to win, and then our only hope was drawing a Lightning Strike with the Ruin Raider raid trigger. But as it turns out, we didn't draw the Lightning Strike, so didn't get punished there, but definitely still a mistake. Alright, on to sideboarding against a blue-white approach deck. So we get to bring in our artifact package, get to bring in our Duresses and our March of the Drowned. And I think that's it. What do we take out? Don't like Lightning Strike here, just 3 damage isn't worth it. Doesn't kill any of the opponent's stuff. And Buccaneer's Bravado is also a bit dubious since our opponent has so many removal spells. I think we can shave 2 copies of the Poisoner, even though the Flash is nice to play around sorcery speed sweeper effects. the +1/+1 and Death Touch isn't all that relevant, so I can see cutting 2 copies of the Poisoner. So I think this is it. Would like to be on the play, and this hand looks fine. A lot of disruption. So here we have to decide whether or not we want to fire off the Duress on turn 1 or wait until turn 3, but given that we have so many 1-drop pirates we can potentially draw into, I like just firing off the Duress right now. And our opponent has Authority of the Consuls, which I don't know if we care about. Cast out Censor, Supreme Will, so Censor we can pretty easily play around. Cast out is a pretty clunky removal spell. I mean, I guess we could just take the Authority because we can just take future cards with the Freebooter anyways. And this is the only card our opponent can play right away. And then next turn, Freebooter can take either the Supreme Will or the Cast Out, or we can just play Karizev. I think we still just take the Authority, try to take advantage of the Freebooters to get rid of the other stuff. I mean, I guess Authority is pretty good against Karizev, so probably a reason to take it there. Alright, we picked up a Buccaneer, so here I think I like just playing Karizev as it adds more power. And then next turn, opponent's gonna have Censor up, we can play a Freebooter. Opponent's gonna cycle the Censor since they kind of know we can play around it, so next turn we might be able to play Freebooter and Buccaneer. Opponent picked up an island that we didn't know about. So that kind of strongly indicates that our opponent picked up either another Censor or something like an Essence Scatter. Otherwise they probably would have played the Plains to give themselves the option of cycling the Cast Out. So let's name Pirates. Run out the Freebooter. And see what our opponent's working with. Alright, so this resolves. Opponent has 2 copies of Supreme Will, a Fumigate, and a Cast Out. So they don't have double white yet. So I think here it's between the Cast Out or the Fumigate. I think I'll actually go with the Cast Out here first, and then the next Freebooter can go for the Fumigate. And then we can still play the Buccaneer, revealing the Freebooter, and get in for 3 points. Alright, so next turn we'll have to see if we want to run out the Freebooter or not. Opponent does have these 2 copies of Supreme Will that they can use to counter Freebooter and set up their Fumigate. And now they have an Authority of the Consuls, so they're unable to play a Supreme Will, and Darfleet Neckbreaker is great here, so we can just tap out for that. Opponent does gain a life, but they're gonna take a lot more damage. Attack with everyone. Opponent gains 1 from the monkey, but takes 2, and falls all the way to 6. So they pretty much need a Cellular Wreckage next turn, and we have Freebooter to check for it, so didn't think our opponent's getting out of this one. They don't even have double white, so I think they're just dead here. Alright, so we get to go to a game 3 against Blue-White Approach. Do we want to change anything? I don't think so. Does Authority of the Consuls change much? Not really. Don't have any haste creatures to begin with. It's kind of annoying with Karizev, I guess, but I think we just run it back. Alright, so this hand is a little bit dubious. We have 5 lands and 2 1-drops. 2 1-drops are great at pressuring the opponent early, but 5 lands is a bit much. Don't have any disruption. This hand could definitely go poorly for us, but we do play around something like Censor pretty well here, since we can just play 2 1-drops and pay for the Censor. I'm actually gonna keep this one and just hope that a fast start is good enough. Tapped farmland from the opponents. Another mountain there to draw is not good for us, so let's name Pirates. Play the Buccaneer. And reveal the Scoundrel. So any more lands we draw are essentially dead draws here. Took a bit of a gamble, and it might not pay off here. And Canyon Slough, well, at least that one we can cycle. So let's start by attacking for 2. And we want to make sure to play our lands before playing the Scoundrel. To play around Censor. We'll say go. Opponent doesn't cycle anything end of turn. 3rd land. Alright, Rigging Runner's a good one. So let's play the Summit and attack for 4. Opponent takes it, we'll play the Runner and say go. Opponent just passes, so they could be holding up Supreme Will that they didn't want to cast, or perhaps more sensors. End of turn we will cycle. And we would love to draw a Duress or a Freebooter here. Another Rigging Runner. And a land. So now we're in this difficult spot where we need to play around Settled Wreckage. So how many pirates do we attack with? I think at least 2. So we might as well attack with the Buccaneer and the Scoundrel. And hope our opponent doesn't have the Settled Wreckage, because we don't have a lot of pirates left. And it's definitely conceivable their opponent doesn't even cast it, even if they have it. Just because if we follow up with something like our Wind Raider, they could be in trouble. Opponent just takes it, so now we need to consider Fumigate, so I don't think we can afford to run out another creature here. So I think we just have to pass. And end of turn a Glimmer of Genius. So this is a spot where having access to Freebooter or Duress just to have the information is so relevant, because we could be throwing away a lot of points by not attacking with everyone. Opponent with a pretty full grip just says go, which is a little suspicious. We keep drawing lands, so our deck has not been kind to us. So how many creatures do we attack with? I think we attack with 2 once again. Opponent takes it, and once again I don't think we can afford to run out the Rigging Runner. Opponent did nothing with their mana, so they're out of draw spells. Very likely that they just fire off a Fumigate here instead of search for Ascanta. And 4 mana up, so very likely that they have a Settle here. And Kitesail Freebooter comes at a perfect time. And if our opponent just has the 1 Settled Wreckage and no other removal spells, we could just win the game here. And there we go, awesome! So our opponent doesn't even want to show their hand, and a Kitesail Freebooter locks things up, despite our pretty horrible draw in game 3. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a good hand here. Multiple 1-drops we can play right away. Both our colors of mana, some removal. Opponent with Island, and no turn 1 play. So it looks like we're just jamming this Scoundrel right away. Saying go. So next turn we could go Scoundrel plus Rigging Runner after we attack. And a tapped Highland Lake makes that pretty appealing. So let's attack for 2. Play Rigging Runner. Play Scoundrel. Say go. Opponent with an opt end of turn. So blue-red's either spells or control type of deck. Hopefully they don't have any sweepers in the main deck, since that could be an issue here. Mountain, hopefully no Sweltering Suns. Just a Lightning Strike, alright, we can live with that. So we get to get in for 4 here, and I think we're just playing the Stabbed in case we pick up another untapped land. We can play 2 2-drops. So let's attack for 4. And I think we're just playing a Kari here. And Imminent Doom, alright, I like it. Our opponent with a Brew here. And Opt with Imminent Doom can take out a Scoundrel, that's great. So glad we played Kari over the Captain here. So we just need to try and get in as much damage as possible. Kitesail Freebooter could also be great, as it could potentially take away a 2 mana spell from the opponent, which would let us maybe keep our creatures around. I think here it's between playing the Freebooter or just flashing in the Poisoner to get in for an additional point of damage. So we would get in for 5, 6, put the opponent to 8, or we can just play the Freebooter and hope our opponent only has 1 2-drop spell. Yeah, I think we just play the Freebooter here. See what's up. And our opponent with Charter Course and Secrets of the Golden City. So we get to take the Charter Course here and disrupt the Imminent Doom a little bit. And we'll attack for 5. Opponent will get to resolve their Secrets of the Golden City next turn, which can draw them into a 2-mana removal spell, but at least we kind of disrupt the Imminent Doom. Opponent plays the Island, 5 mana for a Glyph Keeper, 5/3 flying with Embalm. Alright, that's fine. We have the Poisoner and now a Ruin Raider as well. I think we're just attacking with Kari and Scoundrel and then flashing in the Poisoner if our opponent blocks. If our opponent plays around Poisoner, they could just block the Ragavan token instead, since this isn't actually a pirate. And they are blocking the Scoundrel, so we get to flash in the Poisoner, give the Scoundrel Death Touch, still a trade, but a trade that's fine for us. So we're in a pretty good spot here if we can dodge any removal spells or sweeper effects. Implement of Combustion can deal 1 damage to a player, but that's also a nice 1-drop to start the chain with Imminent Doom. And alright, we got there, so up against blue-red Imminent Doom, so we can expect lots of removal spells, especially after Sideboard. So I like to bring in the anti-control package here. Direfleet Daredevil could be okay, but perhaps not great. Lightning Rig Crew could actually be good as it has 5 toughness, so survives most of the Imminent Doom shenanigans. Duress could also be okay, but perhaps not necessary. And March of the Drowned could also be okay at getting back a whole bunch of pirates, so maybe those as well. What do we take out? A Lightning Strike didn't seem great. Buccaneer's Bravado can be kind of bad if our opponent just kills all our stuff. Perhaps the Fathom Fleet Captain's a little bit vulnerable to Imminent Doom dealing 1 damage to it, so I could see shaving 2 copies here. Perhaps Duress is worth it, but we did also see Glyph Keeper, so our opponent could have a creature sideboard plan. This unfortunately we can't keep, and this one seems fine. Freebooter can go on the bottom. So hoping to find a land here. Opponent with the turn 1 implement. Alright, Unclaimed Territory is perfect, so let's play that, name Pirate. And run out Daring Buccaneer. And I think we just reveal Kari, since we're likely to play her on turn 2. Opponent with a Char de Course. No raid, so just a draw to discard 1, discarding Glimmer of Genius. Alright, so I think we're just attacking for 2 and playing Kari, and hoping to dodge sweeper effects like Sweltering Suns. Next turn we can attack, play Ruin Raider, start drawing more cards. Opponent does have double red, and Telonali's Summoner. Alright. So they can make some tokens with that. Think we're fine just attacking with both and then playing the Ruin Raider. The Ruin Raider can potentially block the Summoner, so that seems fine. So yeah, let's just attack. Opponent probably gonna cycle their implement end of turn. Let's play Ruin Raider. And see what we draw. Opponent doesn't need cycle the implement. And Ruin Raider reveals a mountain, perfect, so next turn we'll have 4 lands. Can deploy our entire hand if we want to. And we don't take any damage from the trigger. Opponent with a struggle to take out Kari, and thanks to Ether Hub they could have access to Survive, so that gives them a nice split card to go with their Imminent Doom, different mana costs to go with it. And Grasping Scoundrel to draw. We have to be careful not to overextend into a sweeper, but I imagine if our opponent had a sweeper they already would have played it, or would have taken out a Ruin Raider instead of Kari. Let's just jam with both. Then we're probably gonna unload most of our hand. Alright, our opponent chumping the Ruin Raider is kind of suspicious, so that could indicate a sweeper effect incoming. So perhaps we only want to play out 1 creature instead of 2 here. And perhaps we just want to play the Captain, since that allows us to just make a token next turn if he survives without having to commit more resources. Play the Captain, say go. Find another land with Ruin Raider. Lightning Strike to take out a Ruin Raider. So happy we at least committed the Captain here. Another land, so let's go ahead and attack for 4, make a pirate. And then maybe we play out another 1-drop. So our opponent takes 4 down to 7. So we could just go all in, dump our entire hand, hope not to get wrecked by a sweeper effect. We can play 1 creature, so we have lethal next turn. We can play 2 creatures, so we have lethal through a removal spell. Or we can do nothing and just say that we're fine winning in 2 turns. Not entirely sure here. I think we're just gonna say go, play it safe. And then next turn we still have the option of unloading our entire hand. Alright, Hour of Devastation, so happy we didn't overextend there. And rigging runners, so I think we're just playing the Buccaneer, revealing the Scoundrel, and then playing the Scoundrel. I guess there's no reason to hold the Unclaimed Territory. And say go. Don't really want to run out these rigging runners as 1/1s. Chart a course. Discards Imminent Doom, so opponent might be off that plan. We'll just be attacking for 4 here. And then I'm not sure if we're supposed to just play out both rigging runners and hoping our opponent doesn't have another sweeper after they've just drawn some additional cards there. Opponent could also have a Glimmer of Genius end of turn. I think we just jam here and hope for the best. There's a Glimmer, which can help them find a sweeper effect, but now if they just find a bunch of spot removal, that's not going to be good enough. Ether Hub, and yep, this seems like another Hour of Devastation. That's unfortunate, but our opponent is still at 3, so it doesn't take much to kill our opponent from this spot. Grasping Scoundrel is 2/3 of the way there, and a lot of live draws. Would have been nice to draw our Fell Flagship or Pirate's Cutlass, as that would have been ideal here to play around all the opponent's removal. Opponent with Imminent Doom into Opts, taking out the Scoundrel, so things are slipping away from us. And Secrets of the Golden City, with the City's Blessing, so opponent draws 3 cards. March of the Drowned is perfect here. So which pirates do we get back? I think we just get back Karizev and Ruin Raider. And do we just play both? I think so. Make them have the sweeper once again. Opponent with Survive, takes up Imminent Doom, kills the Ruin Raider. That would have actually been relevant a turn ago, since that would have shut off the March of the Drowned. And now Secrets of the Golden City takes out Karizev. So yeah, our opponent in full control mode here. Until now, the Summoner is going to be their finisher of choice, it looks like. And just a Dragonskull Summit to draw. And I don't think we have any lightning strikes left in the deck to finish off our opponent, so that's not an out. We maybe just needed to find something like a Kitesail Freebooter to snag one of those Hours of Devastation, or one of our artifacts could have done it. Let's give the opponent one more turn here. Opponent's keeping up 4 mana, so they might have a Glimmer of Genius end of turn as well. Alright, so we're definitely bringing in our 2 copies of Duress after seeing all these non-creature spells. And perhaps taking out some poisoners. So I think we're just dead here. Yep. Alright, on to sideboarding. So poisoner seems pretty poor. And the rest seems good. Do we want Daredevil? Could be okay. And maybe Captain is better than the poisoner here. Just take out all the poisoners. Still unsure about the Lightning Rig crew here, since it does die to Hour of Devastation, and it's a bit pricey. So perhaps we're better off with playing the Daredevil, which can maybe flash back one of the opponent's instants or sorceries. Don't think we want Lightning Strikes. Yeah, this seems fine. Would like to be on the play, and this hand seems great. Got a lot of disruption. So we can go turn 2 Freebooter, turn 3 Flagship. So let's play the Summits, play the Freebooter. See what the opponent's working with. Opponent with an Opt. I think they should have probably waited with that, just to deny some info. Opponent with double Glimmer of Genius, Charter Course, Lightning Strike, Struggle. And they have an Ether Hub as well. think we're just supposed to take the Lightning Strike, since that answers the Freebooter right away, and then they still have the Struggle, so then next turn they could just cast Charter Course, and then on turn 3 they can have Struggle. Yeah, still think we need to take the Strike here. And maybe we have a 1-turn window to draw Duress or another Freebooter to take the Struggle, to take away all the removal spells out of their hand. Opponent with a Charter Course, discarding one of the Glimmers. Alright, another land's not great here, so let's just play the Flagship after naming Pirates. We could play Daredevil Flashback Opt, which could be okay, but by playing the Flagship here, next turn the Daredevil could actually crew the Flagship and threaten to get in for damage that way. Although I guess our opponent would just be keeping up the Struggle, so they could potentially just kill the Flagship at that point. But we'll see. So let's get in for 2. Opponent plays the Ether Hub and says go, so they're keeping up their Struggle to survive. Fathom Fleet Captain the draw. So yeah, I think the play here is to play the Daredevil, targeting Charter Course, and then we move to combat. See if our opponent wants to kill the Freebooter right now, which gives us the opportunity to crew the Flagship with the Daredevil, and if they let us attack first, we can play Charter Course and draw 2 cards without having to discard. So our opponent lets us attack, and now they're probably going to kill the Freebooter, but now we get to Charter Course, drawing 2 cards, so that worked out fine. And March of the Drowned is pretty good here, although they do have Survive in the graveyard. So opponent with a pretty full grip, we know they have a Glimmer of Genius still in hand. Tap Thailand Lake into Secrets of the Golden City, so we do get to connect with the Flagship here if we want to. And another Daredevil, so we could just Daredevil, flashback Secrets of the Golden City, and then crew attack, make the opponent discard. That seems pretty appealing. We could try to set up March of the Drowned for Freebooter to try and take their Hour of Devastation, so I think it's just better to just play the Daredevil, target the Secrets, and then crew the Flagship, attack for 6, make the opponent discard and then draw 2. Opponent discards a Glimmer. Alright, perfect. So our sideboard cards are doing work this game. Opponent pretty much forced to answer the board here. Opponent's out of energy, so they actually can't cast an Hour of Devastation if they have any. Opponent's just saying go. Perhaps holding on to a removal spell, like Lightning Strike. It's unfortunate that we only have 1 pirate in the graveyard right now, so we could just be very aggressive and run out the Neckbreaker here, which kind of forces action from the opponent. And then we still have enough mana to maybe play a Rigging Runner afterwards, or a March of the Drowned. I think I like that here. Play the Neckbreaker, and I even like crewing the Flagship just to force the opponent to use removal. So let's see how many removal spells our opponent has access to. Lightning Strike takes out the Flagship. Daredevil's only getting in for 8. And then we could run out the Rigging Runner here, which seems fine. And if our opponent has a sweeper, we still have the March of the Drowned. And our opponent needs double red here, so opponent casting Charter Course. Desperately digging for answers for mana. I don't think there's much our opponent can have here. And we're getting the GGs from our opponent. And that does it. Awesome. So sideboard cards being pretty key here in game 3, drawing us a bunch of cards with our Daredevils and the Flagship, making our opponent discard, and we still had March of the Drowned to refuel, as well as Cutlass to apply more pressure without overextending. Awesome, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand is 1 red source away from being good, but as is, I don't think we can keep. Alright, this is a bit better. Actually a pretty good 6-card hand if we can avoid drawing too many more lands. And the Rigging Runner, I mean a turn 3 Rigging Runner is fine, but I think there's more high impact cards we can draw into, since our curve is already pretty set. So let's bottom that, name Pirates, Run out Buccaneer and reveal, I guess, a Scoundrel. Say go. Opponent with an island into Minister of Inquiries. So could be a Godpharaoh's Gift deck. We drew a Rigging Runner regardless. Let's attack for 2. Opponent's gonna take it. Gonna run out a Rigging Runner and a Scoundrel. So blue-black gift with Charter Course. Opponent's gonna try and start putting creatures in their graveyard. And there's a Gate to the Afterlife, so they might have an additional copy in hand. I imagine our opponent's just trading for the Scoundrel, but that means they only get 1 activation out of the Minister, so I think that's fine. And if we have a Poisoner here, that's actually a pretty terrible block. But we don't. Opponent does use a Minister, mills over Fatal Push and some lands, so that's good for us. Falls to 14, and we get to follow up with another Rigging Runner. So we just have to hope our opponent can't answer our creatures or block them profitably. We had a good turn 1 and turn 2, but now we're kind of out of cards, so if our opponent has good follow-ups, we could be in trouble. Another Minister is fine. If they also have Fatal Pushes, that would be less good for us. A Lightning Strike, which we can't even cast right now. Let's go to combat, attack with all, and there's a Fatal Push. Takes out a Rigging Runner. Opponent falls to 10. And if they have a Kitesail Freebooter here, that would be pretty unfortunate since can't respond with a Lightning Strike. Field of Ruin. And Ravenous Chupacabra is also not good for us, so can destroy the Rigging Runner, and then we're kind of out of action. So I don't think we're winning this one unless we can chain some great draws. Daring Buccaneer, I guess we're just casting for the full amount. And saying go. Don't think we want to trade here, since we have draws that make our Buccaneers better. And there's the Gate to the Afterlife, our opponent with just the 1 creature in the graveyard right now. So that's not too bad. And there's a Darfleet Poisoner. So now attacking seems pretty appealing. Opponent can try to double block, but then we kind of get them with the Poisoner. Opponent just single blocking. Still flashing in the Poisoner here. And Siphoner goes to the graveyard, so creature count up to 2. And we get to save the Buccaneer. So all of a sudden our board state does look pretty good. But of course our opponent does now get the advantage of the gate. Disallow going to the graveyard. And a Nimble Obstructionist. Their opponent's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures in their graveyard. So 1 away from transforming the gate. Don't have a lot of time here, since as soon as the opponent starts activating Godpharaoh's Gifts, we're in trouble. And yep, there's Champion of Wits, which is probably going to put a creature in their graveyard here. Yep, another Obstructionist and another Champion. Opponent sacks the gates, and game's gonna be over in a turn or 2 here. I imagine our opponent gets back the Champion of Wits just to draw a bunch of cards, or they could get back the Chupacabra to destroy one of our creatures. Not sure about this Gleensleeve Siphoner. Seems like our opponent could do better. And Darfleet and Neckbreaker could be a bit late here, but still not a bad draw. Opponent can trade for 2 of our creatures, but we still get in for a nice chunk. That's aggressive, not blocking our Buccaneers and dropping to 4. Does our opponent have a way to gain life, perhaps? And if they lose 1, go to 3 with the Siphoner, they could just be dead to a mountain off the top. So pretty reckless play from our opponent if they can't gain life here. There's an Ether Hub. Perhaps they have a Disallow in their hand. Opponent cycles a Fetid Pools. So I imagine now they get back a Ravenous Chupacabra to deal with our Neckbreaker. Yep. So we no longer have profitable attacks, but we're just 1 mountain away from perhaps stealing this game. Opponent uses Field of Ruin on Unclaimed Territory. This is funny. Get to search up a mountain. And I don't think our opponent plays any Negates main deck. So I think they're just dead here. Yeah, let's just fire this off right now. And do we get there? Wow. Alright, up against Blue-Black Godpharaoh's Gift. So definitely want our Deadeye Trackers here. Duress also has its merits. Could also want the Daredevil. I think we also want March of the Drowned, just to get back some of our creatures after the opponent kills them. Cannonade could be okay. It clears the Chupacabra, it clears a Siphoner, and it clears the Minister of Inquiries. And also other random creatures like Champion of Wits might actually be okay here. And then, do we want our artifact package? I don't think so. And Daredevil seems okay, it can get back Fatal Push or Chart a Course, that kind of stuff. What do we take out? I like all the 1-drops. Lightning Strike's not great, but also not terrible. I like most of our cards. I guess we just shave some number of Captains and some number of Poisoners. And then perhaps we don't want the Lightning Strikes after all. I could get behind that. There's not a lot of creatures that are must-kill on the opponent's side. Perhaps an early Minister of Inquiries or a Siphoner. But we're kind of the aggressor in the matchup, and this hand seems fine. Can't play the Scoundrel on turn 1. Opponent leads with Islands. Let's play the Slough tapped, so our summits come into play untapped. Opponent's got a Chart a Course right away, so some fuel for the Daredevil. Discards the land. So we have a few options. We could run out the Scoundrel or the Poisoner. Poisoner would be more mana efficient, but by playing the Poisoner next turn we can get in for an additional point of damage. And the Daredevil we want to play on turn 4 with Chart a Course. Champion of Wits, yep. So that would trade for the Grasping Scoundrel here. 2 gates to the Afterlife. Opponent might have a third one in hand. Fathom Fleet Captain's a nice one here. I think we attack and try to trade before our opponent gets the gate in play, which gains them a life and lets them draw and discard. And then we're just going to play out the Captain here, I think. Say go. No Chupacabra, that's good. Let's go ahead and attack first. We could have played a Pirate pre-combat to make a token, but if our opponent then has a Fatal Push, that's kind of bad. So now we just get to Daredevil and Chart a Course, drawing 2 cards. Our opponent might just be on the hardcast gift plan, which could work here. With this hand, I think we attack, and we could make a token, but our hand's so full that it's probably better to play 2 Rigging Runners, and then we can also play a Kitesail Freebooter to check out our opponent's hand, which hopefully doesn't have any copies of Golden Demise. So let's start by attacking, and then play out the Freebooter. Check out our opponent's hand, which is 3 lands and a River's Rebuke. Easily taking the Rebuke, and then playing out 2 Rigging Runners. And our opponent facing a lot of pressure here. And alright, our opponent scoops it up, so that's a quick win against Blue-Black Godpharaoh's Gift, where we managed to steal game 1 after our opponent got a little bit reckless with her life total. Alright, I want to thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached we will release an additional weekly series, so if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.